There are places where time seems to stop. Where the air itself holds a memory. Where the silence is so complete, you can hear the turning of a page a century later. What happens when a crime scene is not just a place, but a puzzle box? A room, locked from the inside. A family, vanished into thin air. A set of footprints, leading to a body, but not from it. What does it mean when the only witness is the house itself, and its walls have absorbed a secret so terrible, they can only speak in whispers?
Every mystery has a story, but not every story has an answer. Every week, we uncover the chilling cases that have haunted investigators for years. Unsolved disappearances, cold cases, and the darkest secrets waiting to be discovered. Are you ready to uncover the truth? Join us, if you dare. The Unsolved Chronicle.
In the winter of 1922, in a remote corner of Bavaria, a mystery began that would defy logic, frustrate investigators, and echo through the decades. It is a case built not on evidence, but on absences. The absence of a motive. The absence of a clear suspect. The absence of 6 lives. This is the story of what happened at Hinterkaifeck. And the question that remains, a century later, is, what happened to the people? To understand the mystery, we must first walk the path of the known. The Hinterkaifeck farm was not a grand estate. It was a small, isolated homestead nestled between the Waidhof and Kienberg mountains, a 30-minute walk from the nearest town of Ingolstadt. It was here that the Gruber family lived and worked. The family consisted of Andreas Gruber, 63, the patriarch. His wife, Kazilia, 72. Their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, 35, and her 2 children, Kazilia, 7, and Joseph, 2. The 6th resident was Maria Baumgartner, 44, the family's maid. They were a quiet, devout family, known in their village but largely keeping to themselves. The last known day of their lives was Friday, March 31, 1922. That evening, Andreas Gruber was seen in town, buying supplies. He spoke briefly with neighbors. Nothing seemed amiss. He returned to the farm, and the family settled in for the night. The following day, Saturday, was the beginning of the Easter weekend. On Tuesday, April 4th, a local messenger named Joseph Meyer was sent to the farm with a letter. He found the house eerily quiet. The door was unlocked. He called out, but no one answered. He left the letter on a windowsill and returned to town, assuming the family had left for a sudden trip. This was not entirely out of character. The family was known to be somewhat eccentric. But the next day, April 5th, a neighbor, Albert Hoffner, grew concerned. He had seen smoke coming from the farm's chimney for days, yet no one had been seen. He walked to Hinterkaifeck with a neighbor's son, Lorenz Schlittenbauer. They found the same scene, the door unlocked, the house silent. This time, they decided to enter. Inside, they found a scene of profound, unsettling normalcy, punctuated by chilling details. The cows and calves were in the barn, having been fed. Chickens were in their coop. The family cat was purring by the stove. But there were no people. They found a half-eaten meal on the kitchen table. A newspaper from March 30th lay on a bench. In the barn, they found the bodies of Andreas Gruber and the maid, Maria Baumgartner. Both had been killed. A search of the property revealed the other victims. In a small shed, the bodies of Victoria Gabriel and her daughter, Kazilia, were found. And in a storage room beneath the house's eaves, wrapped in bedding, were the bodies of Kazilia Gruber and her grandson, Joseph. All 6 had been killed, likely over the course of several days. Theories and oddities. The investigation was the largest in Bavarian history at the time, but it hit a wall. The evidence was a collection of contradictions. Over the years, 3 main theories have emerged, each trying to make sense of the ghostly details left behind. Theory 1, the revenge suspect. The first, and most persistent, theory centers on a man named Karl Gross. Gross was a neighbor and a veteran of the First World War. He had a history of mental instability and had made threats against the Gruber family. He believed Andreas Gruber had caused the death of his brother during the war and had also interfered in his romantic life. The evidence against Gross is circumstantial but compelling. He had a powerful motive: revenge. As a veteran, he would have known how to handle weapons and move with lethal efficiency. A farmer himself, he would have been familiar with the Gruber's property and their routines. The murder weapon, a pickaxe-like tool known as a Böhmischer Schlegel, was something he would have used in his own work. Gross was interrogated multiple times. He provided conflicting alibis for the weekend of the murders. He was seen in town on the day of the discovery, acting strangely and telling people not to go to the farm. However, no direct evidence, no confession, no bloody clothes, no witness placing him at the scene, was ever found. He was eventually tried for the murders but acquitted due to a lack of evidence. Some investigators, then and now, remain convinced of his guilt, believing he was a disturbed man driven by a century-old grudge. Others argue the evidence is too thin, and the theory fails to explain the killer's bizarre post-murder behavior. Theory 2, the economic motive. A second theory moves away from personal revenge and toward a more calculated crime: robbery. The Hinterkaifeck farm, while not a mansion, was prosperous. Andreas Gruber was known to be a shrewd businessman who kept a significant amount of cash on the property, hidden from the bank. This theory posits that the killer was someone who knew about Gruber's wealth. Perhaps a business associate, a disgruntled employee, or even a traveling salesman who had visited the farm. The goal was robbery, but it spiraled out of control. This could explain the killer's strange actions after the murders. The feeding of the animals, the locking of the doors, it wasn't the work of a madman, but a cold, calculated attempt to delay the discovery. Every day the bodies remained unfound, the killer had more time to cover their tracks, spend the money, and create an alibi. The single set of footprints could belong to a lone thief who panicked. The mysterious stranger seen in town before the murders could have been this person, casing the farm. The theory's main weakness is the sheer brutality of the crime. It seems an extreme reaction for a simple robbery, and no stolen money was ever traced. Theory 3, the unknown traveler. The final theory is perhaps the most chilling. It suggests the killer was not someone from the Gruber's past, but a complete stranger who arrived by chance. This theory hinges on a cryptic newspaper advertisement. A few weeks before the murders, Victoria Gabriel had placed an ad seeking a farmhand, specifically mentioning she would prefer a single man. Investigators believe this ad may have attracted a transient, a drifter, or a veteran with no ties to the area. This person would have been unknown to the family and, therefore, impossible to trace. He could have arrived, been let in, and then turned on the family for unknown reasons, perhaps a dispute over work, or a sudden, opportunistic impulse. This would explain the lack of a clear motive or a local suspect. The killer was a ghost, a man who came from nowhere and disappeared back into nowhere. His single set of footprints in the snow support this idea: a lone wanderer. After the murders, he simply walked away, melting back into the chaos of post-war Germany. The bizarre behavior in the house becomes the act of a deeply disturbed, itinerant mind, operating on a logic known only to him. This theory, while plausible, offers the least closure, as it paints the killer as a random force of nature, leaving behind no name and no history. Case status plus call to action. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain officially unsolved. The case files, thick with reports, interrogations, and dead ends, are stored in the archives of the Bavarian State Criminal Police Office. It is Germany's oldest unsolved mass murder case. In recent years, there have been attempts to find new answers. In 2008, DNA testing was performed on evidence from the scene, but it failed to yield a conclusive match. The case has been digitized, re-examined, and featured in numerous documentaries and books, each offering a new perspective. The public's fascination endures because the case feels less like a historical event and more like an unfinished story. The silence of Hinterkaifeck still asks its questions. What detail lingers in your mind? The strange behavior of the killer? The single set of footprints? Which theory feels closest to the truth, or do you believe the answer lies elsewhere? Share your respectful thoughts below. Sometimes, the coldest cases thaw with fresh eyes. In memory of Kazilia, Andreas, Victoria, Kazilia, Joseph, and Maria. Not headlines, but lives. Not a mystery to be solved, but people to be remembered.